In this video, I'm going to make sourdough whole wheat bread. And I start out with water that's 90 degrees Fahrenheit so that it's warm but not too hot. I weigh out 200 grams of water and add in 50 grams of sourdough. After that, I add 250 grams of flour, mix it up. This is flour that we've ground here on the farm. It's 100% grain. There's all the bran, the wheat germ, everything's in it. And then I let that sit until the afternoon, and I'm ready to mix the final dough. So I put in the water, again at 90 degrees, and then I add the flour. And then I mix those together. So it's 960 grams of flour. Mix it with my hand to make it's a very wet dough. There's no kneading involved. The gluten is established with time rather than kneading. So 30 minutes later, I add in my sourdough that I'd had started. So that's 432 grams. I put in 25 grams of sea salt. And then I mix that in with the final dough that I have already had sitting for 30 minutes. Once I've put the sourdough and the salt in, then I mix it with my hand again. You just pinch it and mix it all together, and then you reach in from the bottom and pull it up. That's a stretch and fold to incorporate the dough, the sourdough and the salt in with the flour and water that had been sitting there. When you leave that water and flour sitting together, it helps the flour absorb the moisture. And over time, gluten's established. Again, we're not kneading it very much. This is as much kneading as we do this stretch and fold, but most of the gluten is being established by letting a time elapse. And having a very moist dough makes your end product nice and soft inside and crusty on the outside. So then we wait for 15 to 30 minutes and we do this stretch and fold again, and you can see how much better the dough is already. The gluten has been established, it's stretching, it's folding, it's well incorporated, and that's what you want it to look like eventually. You can think back to what it was like when we first started. It was a very gooey kind of mess, but now it's looking more like bread dough. So then we wait and we repeat that a total of 3 times in about an hour and a half period. And then you wait for 5 hours. And then I take it out and divide it. And otherwise you could make one large loaf, leave it all together. But in this video I'm making 2. So I have a pastry scraper, which is helpful. You can again pull it up from the bottom, stretch it over. It's a very gooey dough. Again, it's sort of a stretch and fold method. You're putting it over and then trying to get a little loaf. But it's also very sticky, and that's okay. That's just the way this is. I put it onto linen cloths with a bit of flour on the bottom. The linen is very important because the dough will not stick to linen, whereas if you use cotton or polyester or whatever, it will stick and be kind of a mucky mess. So I put that into the 2 rising bowls with their cloth liners, put it in a plastic bag, seal the plastic bag under, and put it in the refrigerator to rise. So when you have it rising in a cool place, it makes for a less soury sourdough. And then in the morning, I get up, I turn on the oven to 450. I put my Dutch ovens in to heat up. We use a wood stove, but any other gas or electric stove will be fine. You take them out, and then I sprinkle in some rice flour. You can see how hot those pans are. You want the Dutch ovens to be hot to start. Then I just turn that dough into the Dutch oven. And again, it comes off those linen cloths very nicely without sticking. It's a very moist dough, but that means the bread at the end will be moist inside. You cover it back up and then you bake it for 30 minutes. And you take off the lid, and then you put it back in for 15 minutes, and that makes the outside crust really crunchy and crisp, but the inside is very moist because inside that Dutch oven it has steamed. So then when you cut it, you can see that crispy, crusty exterior that just is wonderful to chew, but the inside is moist, almost custardy. So you can see that also those good air bubbles in there indicate a very good sourdough. And again, if I doubled that up into one, it would have been a bigger loaf. But that is it.